So, CA just dropped some new Total War Warhammer 40k footage at a Chinese event recently, but to temper your expectations right away, there isn't really anything new we're going to learn from this presentation or from this video. It's mostly stuff we've known already. This is basically a little walkthrough of a battle, and it's a battle we've seen some footage of in CA's previous videos, so sadly, nothing super exciting or new information here, but I am mightily excited about Total War 40k, and goddammit, I just want to talk about it. So, various things I noticed throughout this video. First of all, we see the fleets above a planet. But the fleets themselves, we don't know too much about them yet and how they're going to work. We don't even know if there's fleet versus fleet combat. What we do know, though, is that they're going to ferry your armies around the galaxy, across the systems, and be able to send the troops down onto planets to achieve whatever your mission is. So in the same way that on the Warhammer 3 campaign map you have Karl Franz walking around with your army within him, and then you move him around the campaign map, that's kind of how these fleet ships are going to be, with the different systems being the campaign map, essentially. But how do we recruit new units? Do we keep them all on the ship? Do we only have that as our finite resource, and if we run out of units on the ship, then we've run out of units and we have to go to a planet to collect some more? Or do I somehow produce them on my ship? We know that different planets are going to offer different things and different resources and a different value to hold on to. But still, it's all very vague at the moment. We know that planets are going to have regions that you have to conquer, but still, we haven't seen any of that yet. We still don't really know how that's going to work. But getting into this battle here, you may recognize this from footage we saw the other week. A showdown between Astra Militarum and Orcs. And it's going to be played from the Astra Militarum perspective, and we're going to see a little bit more. It's all in Chinese though, so we can't really read anything. But like I said, it's all pretty much what we saw before, the unit cards, the UI and such. But here we're going to get into the battle. Starts off with some sentinels scouting the map, and it mentions that their weapons are customizable, so you can have autocannons, heavy flamers, missile launchers, to name a few. So assumedly that means it's going to be the same unit, you'll just be able to swap out the weapons. I wonder if you'll be able to do that on the fly, able to change weapons just before each battle on your ship, before you send your units down, to suit whatever the enemy is that you're facing. Perhaps you'll have to produce the different weapons and you have a finite resource of them, so if you lose a sentinel with a flamer on it, there goes your flamer. But yeah, customizable vehicles sounding very cool. We can see this little party hidden behind some trains. The main army is going to start to move up now, and we see the cover system in action, some guardsmen getting into cover in these sandbagged areas. And we learned a little bit about the cover system in the last video. We saw that they get some bonuses. There's a suppression mechanic, but we don't really know how that works yet. There's an evasion stat which you gain when you're in cover, which I'm going to guess is basically like melee defense, but for missiles, so you're better at dodging missiles when you're behind cover. And it mentions that, of course, not all units can use cover, because, you know, Ogren. The units moving through this ruin here, looking pretty natural, the guardsmen jumping over the walls, the Ogren just walking through them. But we can see with the Astra Militarum, lots of space being used, lots of range being used, and that's what it's going to be about with them, seemingly good positioning, getting as much time to use their firepower as possible. Whereas the greenskins, of course, just want to run up and smash your face directly off of your head. And we see an ability get used here, looks like a speed boost of about 10% to get those tanks to move up a little bit quicker. And it seems like all of these buffs that are coming from your fleets and from orbital bombardments and orbital lasers and whatnot, it feels like this is somewhat a replacement for the Warhammer 3 magic system, because that's not going to be able to work quite in the same way, because wizards aren't running around everywhere. Although we will have psychers, of course, so it'll be interesting to see how they're implemented into battles, because, well, they are basically wizards, but they can do just about anything, really, so we'll have to see how that's going to work. And in a sec, we're going to see one of these abilities blow up a bunch of orcs, which are very blobbed up, and that's going to bring another question of AI. Is the AI going to be any better, any smarter in this than Total War Warhammer 3? I'm not honestly holding on to hope. I think in this case of this battle, this is probably another player playing as the orcs here, who's deliberately avoiding the bridge because of the tanks. So I don't think AI is to blame for this blobbing up, but I imagine it's still going to blob up a fair bit. This is, of course, on a new engine, which might have some improvements, but like I say, I'll believe it when I see it with Total War AI. As far as the destruction goes, it would be really cool if that bridge that they're trying to avoid crossing could just be destroyed if you can target it with your tanks or with your orbital strikes in some way. We can see a bunch of the ruins getting destroyed as the fighting goes on here, and we're going to see this little hidden party up behind the trains, targeting the trains, blowing them up so they can go through. That's cool to see some practical use of destruction in one of these videos, but it'll be interesting to see if that is really a useful thing, the destruction of the game, or is it just a bit of a gimmick that we're going to get bored of after 3 battles? I feel like the former. I feel like it should be good. It'll give some strategic and tactical options that maybe aren't there in other Total Wars. Perhaps it'll really more come down to the map design on whether it's good or not, which so far I think the map design is looking pretty good from the few maps we've seen. And we can see some reinforcements being brought in here, and if we look down on the minimap, you can see where those units are coming in. So you can see that with the Astra Militarum, their units have to run in from the edge of the map. That's different from, say, the Space Marines that can drop pod down their units wherever the hell on the map. Map. English is hard. Here we have a freeze frame of a big explosion, orc body parts flying everywhere, showing off the brutal magnificence of Total War, which I don't think anybody is worried about. Total War, always very good at making things look pretty. Visually, it should be fantastic, although we do have to wonder about performance. The performance of this very video looks a bit stuttery and not that great, not the greatest of frame rates, but, you know, optimization probably isn't done yet. But with the maps being bigger, there's going to be visually more on them, more to render. Is there going to be more units? Are 40 versus 40 battles going to be a common thing? Are we all going to need 5090s to play this? I'm going to imagine not. I can't imagine it being too much worse than Total War Warhammer 3, but we'll have to wait and see. Of course, this game is coming to console, which is going to put some limitations on how crazy the graphics can be, so there is that. But, you know, coming to console is always a scary phrase for a game that's always been on PC. Is it going to get dumbed down? Is it going to get simplified for controller and for console players? Well, no news on that yet, so we'll have to wait and see, but let's hope not. I want battles to still feel like I can be tactical and strategic with my units, with my armies, with my game plans, and not just big old massive blobs of units crashing into each other and I'm supposed to find that fun. Maybe some people do. Not for me. I like to try and use all 25 of my brain cells to play the game. So, cool to see more Total War 40k footage. I'll take anything I can get at the moment. I just want to see more of the game, but what I really want is to actually know more about the game. They're showing us a lot of stuff, but not really telling us anything yet, which at this point is getting a little frustrating. Even me as an insider, I don't know too much more than you do. I have played the game about a year or so ago, but even that was limited, and obviously I can't talk about anything that I do actually know, and plus that was ages ago, and it's likely things have changed a lot since then anyway. So I think I sit where maybe most people are sitting at the moment, which is quiet optimism. I just need to see more, I need to know more before I can really judge the game. I want to love it and be excited, and it could well be the greatest Warhammer game ever to be made up to this point, especially as you're going to have the customization to make your own factions, make your own chapters of Space Marines, whatever you want to do. And judging by what they've said, it sounds like the game is going to be absolutely humongous, with lots of like little campaigns being played all within one kind of world. So whereas at the moment when you play Warhammer 3 and you start a new campaign, you play as a different lord, you play as a different faction, and the world is reset every time. It seems like in this that the world is going to stay the same, with the results of your previous campaigns having an effect. So if you play as the orcs and conquer half the galaxy, well, when you play your next campaign as the Astra Militarum, the orcs are going to have half of the galaxy. At least that's the impression I've got, and although, you know, taking half the galaxy is probably a momentously huge task, it'll take you about 4 years, but it's doable. So size and scale here could be absolutely huge, but hopefully that doesn't dilute the experience and just make it kind of bland. We'll have to wait and see. Like with everything, I've said that about 18 times, but that's all there is at the moment, until we find out some real meaty information. There was recently a Twitch integration added to Total War Warhammer 3. I wonder if that type of thing will come over to this game as well, where viewers can get involved on streams. That's a cool little thing that could be nice with this game. Also, now that we're seeing a ranged heavy Total War and we're seeing a cover system and we're seeing units hide behind sandbags and stuff, this does open up the question of, hey, when's Total War World War II coming? Because it seems more like a possibility now, right? With the cover system, we've seen tanks and stuff, so it could certainly work with this similar kind of system perhaps. But that would be a long ways off, I'm sure, especially with Medieval 3 coming. That should hopefully be a nice return to form for historical titles. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. If you're excited for Total War 40k, let me know down below. If not, let me know down below. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the future.